Today we'll be talking about some of the important aspects of a shamanic journey and a few guidelines on how to make your own. A shamanic journey is really like a guided meditation, only it is very much based on your imagination and you're allowing your mind to go to places that you can't quite direct it. Being open to receiving the meditation rather than actually guiding it or forcing it. They've been used for millennia, really, since we could beat a drum, since we could beat on anything that made a sound that could carry a rhythm. We actually could do this when we were stomping our feet in various indigenous cultures as we danced around and entered trance states. Entering trance states is a phrase that personally I don't like to use very much because some people associate it with something scary. It doesn't have to be. Ultimately, if one wants to reach ecstasy, yes, one has to get into a trance state. You do need to kind of leave your rational, boxed-in mind, especially for us living in the Western, rationalized and civilized world. We have forgotten how to use our minds to travel to places that don't make sense or that we're not familiar with. But anyway, that's a trance state. The shamanic journey can be really any way you want it to be. It can be something that happens very much in the scope of what you are more familiar with, but you do need to have some freedom to allow yourself to be guided by wherever the journey is taking you. The main elements of the journey really are to know a map, and we'll talk about the map for the lower world, for example, and then you follow the map and allow yourself to receive whatever comes. It's not a place that you've been before necessarily, but there will be very familiar aspects to the journey, and there will be some surprising aspects as well. Every journey is meant to be safe. Every journey is meant to be a healing in a sense. Either that healing is something that actually does get healed in that energetic plane, which is not something that we understand, again, with a rational mind, or that we can really see with the eyes necessarily. It can also be a journey for answers, and it can be a journey for exploration. It can be a journey to find guides, if one wishes to find guides. There are many aspects to the journey, and you can pretty much ask for anything you want, and you will receive it. I don't want to over-explain, and I don't want to make it too comfortable for us Westerners, but just to make it a little bit more comfortable for whoever is hearing this and is finding it quite strange. It's like entering your own personal subconscious. So I think most of us are more comfortable with the idea of our own subconscious. There are aspects of ourselves, of our experiences that we sort of put away. And they can be negative, they can be positive, but they are put away. Entering the subconscious is something that we may do with some forms of psychotherapy so that we can bring it to light because it is influencing the rest of our lives. Actually, Jung is very famous for saying that our understood experience is simply the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of the iceberg all the way into the deep, dark ocean is our subconscious. So accessing that is quite an important tool for understanding what makes us tick. Doing a journey into the lower world, we enter either our own subconscious or the collective subconscious. Again, it depends on what our intention is. Just to make a quick example, when I first started journeying, I wasn't sure what I was entering, but it did feel familiar. Now, with years of understanding how these things work a little bit, I have seen that what I was entering was my own subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't work in a linear fashion. It's not going to sit down and explain to you exactly what you need to see. Most likely you'll receive information through symbols or maybe a phrase or actions. Maybe someone will visit you in the journey and they will perform an action. And when you come out of the journey, that will make sense later on. Or you'll realize what the message was later on. The main parts of the journey are that you find a comfortable place. You have something that allows you to follow a rhythm, whether traditionally it's a drum, it can be a rattle, it can be some sort of soft music now that we have all of these other methods of creating music that weren't available for our ancestors. Something that has a rhythm or a tone that allows you to maintain a certain kind of brain state. And then you allow your imagination to travel. And oftentimes you are taken to a specific place. I usually take people to a meadow, and this is a meadow they know, and it's something comfortable, and you really go in there with your senses. And then from that place, you find an opening in the earth. I guide through a tree, and you go down to the earth. It can be through a tree, it can be through the stems, the roots of the tree, it can be through a cave, it can be through a body of water. And you go all the way down until at some point you reach it's like an underground water system. You get into there, you cleanse yourself, and you keep going down. And finally you end up in what may be a garden. It's a landscape. It's your inner landscape. It can be a garden. It can be a desert. It can be anything that appears to you at the time. But it is familiar, and it is yours, and you are welcome there. And that's a place that you can navigate in whichever way you choose. It's good to usually have some sort of a guide for this lower world, for this subconscious landscape. In the tradition that I have been trained, we call on Huascar, who is the guardian of the lower world. You can also find some sort of a spirit animal. If you ask for it, it will appear. And this guardian or guide will take you through the lower world and you will explore. If you do have a specific question, something somehow will appear that you can then hold on to. And then you'll be guided out of the journey, which usually means going back to the original place you came in through, and then following that stream up until you get to that original place from which you went down. So it could be the taproot of the tree, it could be the very bottom of a body of water, or the very bottom of a cave, and you come up into your valley, and then from there you come back into your ordinary reality. All of this sounds very different than what it feels like, and each time the journey is different. The more open you are and the more you practice, just like everything in this life, the more information becomes available to you and the more your inner eye becomes accustomed to seeing in this other world, in this subconscious lower world. And the clearer you see, oftentimes, the more information you're able to retrieve on whatever it is that you are asking about. That is the basis of how journeys work. There is middle world journeys and upper world journeys. Middle world is the world that we are currently living in, and the upper world is the journey to the higher places, to the ascended masters, to the bodhisattvas, to the Buddhas, to the place of your becoming. It's not necessarily the future. It's just the place that is of, let's say, the super conscious. Although that would not be exactly how Jung would call it. These journeys are similar. They have a map that you follow, and you end up in one of these realms, and you get the information, the guidance, the wisdom, the healing that you're seeking. It's important to have a map. And it's good to start off with a guide. With a guide meaning someone who shows you the map, a human being that takes you through the map, and then to let go of the guide and to begin to journey on your own. There are so many ways that we can get insight to so much of our life, and we used to know them all, or at least some cultures used to know them, and now we are so reliant on what other people say. The most common phrase we all say is, "I'll Google it." And yes, when we want to know specific aspects of our history, or how an appliance works, or how to fix something on your webpage, that's a great place to look. But when you're looking for the wisdom of how to live your own life and how to make decisions based on you, going to Google will probably complicate things a lot more. And most importantly, we have become disempowered since we're seeking the answers always from the experts somewhere out there that have written, talked, lectured. Where is the inner guidance coming from? We've forgotten how to find our own answers. And this method is a really wonderful way of doing that. I hope you try it, and whatever means you find, I do hope that you end up learning how to listen to your own wisdom and to receive your own answers.